Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? The Saints have reportedly added a defensive staff member. And it's a familiar name to fans, football fans in this area. According to sources at ESPN, and I believe it was Chris Lowe who had it first. Now, Chris Lowe has done a great job for a long time covering the Southeastern Conference. Todd Grantham is set to join the Saints defensive staff. So, quick fill in the blank, connect the dot, catch up to speed. So Todd Grantham interviewed for the Alabama DC job. He spent this past year as an analyst on Alabama staff. Remember, he was the DC at Florida under Dan Mullen. Mullen fired him. He went with Mullen from Mississippi State to Florida. So he was at Florida. Before that, he was at Mississippi State. And prior, he was at Georgia. So Todd Grantham has some deep SEC ties, and a lot of people in this region should know Todd Grantham really well. Very aggressive defensive coordinator style. Now, as far as role with the Saints, that's not listed or determined, but I'll repeat what I said yesterday. I don't care who the defensive coordinator is for the Saints. Dennis Allen is your defensive coordinator. He is coordinating the defense and calling the plays. Anyone else that has that title, it's nominal. He just has that title in name and not in action. So a defensive coordinator with the Saints under Dennis Allen is no different than an offensive coordinator under Lane Kiffin in Oxford. You know who's calling the plays. It don't really matter. You're just the OC. Give me some ideas, whatever. Fine, I'm calling the plays. So that's where Dennis Allen is. And that's fine. It's his prerogative as a head coach. He wants to run the defense, fine. So I don't care about what title they give Todd Grantham. If he's a DC, a co-DC, a D-line coach, or Grand Poobah of defense. I really don't care what they say on the business card. What does matter is Todd Grantham has a ton of NFL experience and has primarily worked with the defensive line. So Grantham's 56 years old. So still, I mean, it's odd because when you look at pictures of Todd Grantham, he looks way older. I don't mean for that to sound disrespectful. I mean, a lot of people look at me and go like, dude, the bald, chubby guy's only 40. I mean, I get it. So, no, I'm not, not throwing stones here. But I think there's kind of two parts of this. So, Grantham coached in the NFL for 11 seasons, from 99 to 09. He worked with the Colts, the Texans, the Browns, and the Cowboys. At all four stops, he was the defensive line coach, and with the Browns, he was the defensive coordinator. So you've got a guy that had, before he came back in the SEC with Georgia and Mississippi State and Florida, you had a guy that spent 11 NFL seasons working with NFL defensive linemen. So he is keenly aware of the league and how it works and how to handle pros and to coach defensive line, and I'm good with that. The flip side of it, remember, is you had Ryan Nielsen as your co-DC, but came here to New Orleans as the defensive line coach from NC State, and he had no NFL experience. He played at Southern Cal, was there with Ed Ogeron. We know that's kind of how he got his start as well, so had bounced around USC, Ole Miss, Central Connecticut State, UT Martin, Northern Illinois, before landing at NC State, and then hired from NC State by the New Orleans Saints, where he obviously stayed until now. He's the DC of the Atlanta Falcons. So Nielsen was hired by the Saints with no NFL experience. Grantham has more than a decade of NFL experience. So I'm good with this. And when I look at the Saints defensive line, that's a spot that may be the spot I need them to improve the most in this upcoming draft. Because one of the cornerstones of the Saints of the last half decade has been that run defense, right? We talked about it, that they had that NFL record streak of not allowing a 100-yard rusher, and they were so good on the interior. With guys like Sheldon Rankins and, of course, David Onyemata, and you had Malcolm Brown, and you had this rotation of really good players. Cam Jordan's one of the best run-stuffing defensive ends in the NFL. You had this great run defense, great linebackers there with Demario Davis, who's still in place, and you've got Pete Werner, who you're excited about, and Caden Ellis. But my point is, that interior of your defensive line has suffered. This year, you were 22nd in the NFL in rush defense. It took a major step back. And I know what it is. It's personnel. David Onyemata's older. You're rotating. You don't have Malcolm Brown anymore. You don't have Sheldon Rankins anymore. You got guys like Shai Tuttle and Malcolm Roach. No disrespect to those guys, but you're asking rotational pieces to be starters, and they're not that. So they need to go address the personnel on the defensive line. But my hope is, in bringing in Todd Grantham, he will help elevate the play of the guys that are there. Also, at defensive end, you got no pressure this year. The Saints finished 5th in the NFL in sacks, but they did it with a lot of smoke and mirrors, okay? It wasn't like, hey, freakish edge guy, go wreck things. It's not, hey, Chris Jones, go get me double-digit sacks from the interior, right? I mean, Cam Jordan had 8.5 sacks this year, which led your team. Second on the team, Caden Ellis. Yeah, the Caden Ellis that only played when Pete Werner got hurt and ended up with 7 sacks this year. Third on the team, Demario Davis. Your second and third leading sackers. The guys that were second and third on the team in sacks were linebackers. And then was David Onyemata at 5.5. Like, you got nothing. Marcus Davenport gave you a half a sack. Peyton Turner gave you nothing. Like, you have got to maximize your guys off the edge as well this year. So I'm pretty excited about Todd Grantham. Not as a DC, or I don't care what his title is. He may not even be the DC. He may just be the defensive line coach. But what you know is you're bringing in Todd Grantham to work with the defensive line, and I think he will make the Saints' defensive line better. And my hope is they also address defensive line in this draft because they gotta. They don't have the money to go spend in free agency to bring in a really good player, but they have some draft capital now to do it. It might be the 29th overall pick. So Todd Grantham back into the NFL, coaching the New Orleans Saints, and again, don't know what role that he'll be. And by the way, big shout out to our guy, Uncle Larry, who just texted me, Larry Holder. It's a quick note, and I did not know this. Todd Grantham, and I'll trust Larry Holder, who of course works for The Athletic and covered the Saints forever. Todd Grantham interviewed for the Saints DC job in 2013 when Sean Payton hired Rob Ryan. I'd forgotten that. So hat tip to Uncle Larry for that text. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.